Do you know what the movies The Wizard of Oz, The Hangover, and LA Confidential all have in common? I'll tell you right after this word from our sponsor. Just kidding, I don't have a sponsor. What all three of these movies have in common is that they all have the same characters. Let's take a look. The 1939 version of The Wizard of Oz. There were a couple of earlier filmed versions. In this story, we have Dorothy, who is trying to find her way home. We have the Cowardly Lion, who is in search of courage. The Tin Man is in search of a heart. The Scarecrow wants a brain. And there's a man pulling strings from behind a curtain. Now let's take a look at LA Confidential. In the movie version, Jack Vincennes doesn't mind using people to get ahead in both the police department and in the show business world. He's a man in search of a heart. Ed Exley is a coward in search of courage, especially where it concerns his nemesis/ally, Bud White. Bud stumbles onto a big conspiracy, but is down on himself because he sees himself as just a thug, and doesn't think he's smart enough to work this mystery on his own. There's also Lynn Bracken, a woman who wants to go home, just like Dorothy. And there's a man behind the curtain pulling the strings, Dudley Smith. How about The Hangover? Does this look about right? What all this adds up to is that as a storyteller, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to put new hubcaps on it. If you want a story highlighting multiple characters, then try out The Wizard of Oz as a template. Not only does the template inform you immediately about what these characters want and or need, it tells you where they start and gives you the shape of their character arcs. For example, in LA Confidential, Jack Vincennes is fairly heartless when it comes to using people to further his own ambitions. He's not only happy to bust a couple of young actors for doing nothing more than smoking dope, thereby likely ruining their careers, but he tells Scandal Rag reporter Sid Hudgens how to frame a photograph of himself so he looks good doing it. But as the story progresses, Jack begins to actually gain some heart, so much so that he can't take using the young actor anymore in a sting operation. What's great about using this template to build your characters on is that not only do you have their wants and needs already laid out, but it's the kind of story that lends itself to having characters join forces to become a stronger whole, whereas they floundered when they were on their own. Of course, this isn't the only character template out there. How about Yellowstone? In Yellowstone, Kevin Costner plays a father trying to save his empire, in this case a ranch, from outside forces. He has 3 surviving children. The eldest is a passionate firebrand who causes almost as much trouble as she helps solve. The middle child of the 3 is weak and easily manipulated, and the youngest is ex-military, who at first wants nothing to do with the family business, but then becomes its greatest defender. There's also a right-hand man, a consigliere, who is willing to do the dirtiest jobs on behalf of his boss, who is also a father figure to him. Starting to sound familiar? That's right, these characters all appeared together in The Godfather. How about Stranger Things? Watch 1985's The Goonies and see if you can match some of the characters up. The original Star Trek trio is another great place to start. A brave and passionate individual, matched up with someone who constantly begs for humanity to be considered, and a seemingly cold individual who fears their own humanity might get in the way of their detections. Let me think. Oh! It's perfectly fine to use these character templates, and any others you can think of, when constructing your stories. As long as you switch up the genre or location or the time period or other factors, nobody is going to care if these characters have been used before in different stories. You'll have strong characters in your story, and your audience will have archetypes that are proven to touch them. That's a story win-win.